Variability in your process is not a good thing. What's happening? I am Erik J. Olson. Yeah, variability is a bad thing in your process. Now, a lot of times you get to the point where you have variability in your process because you did not take the time to even define what your process was. I'm reading this book. Actually, I'm listening to a book right now named E-Myth, and I'm listening because I usually read and listen to a book at the same time, different books. So I'll read 10 pages in the morning, and then I'll go exercise, either running or walking with a weighted vest on, and I'll listen as I'm walking. So constantly multitasking and constantly taking in this information, just getting bombarded with business ideas from the greats. In E-Myth, what they talk about is that a lot of times in a business, actually most of the time in a business that is growing without a definitive plan, the owner, in this case, me, the person who's running the company, will abdicate responsibility for large portions of their company to people and then just let them do whatever they do with minimal oversight. And the problem with that is at some point, you're going to find, as I have, that things are not running quite as smooth or the way that you want. And at that point, when you start looking, you start questioning and you start wondering how it got to be like that. By abdicating responsibility, things can work very well for a period of time, but as you grow, if you don't have a process in place, things will start to fall apart. Balls will be dropped, cracks will open up, and clients will fall into those cracks. And when they fall into those cracks, they don't like it. And they usually end up either complaining or leaving. It's a real thing. You know, that has happened here on, frankly, a couple of occasions, but we always seem to recover. I have no doubt that we can recover from any one of those things. But what I don't want to do is recover by going down and then up and then down and then up and then down. I want steady and to the right, steady and to the right, always. And in order to do that, E-Myth says there's really only one way that you can do that. And the way that you can do that is by documenting your processes. Now, the author uses the analogy of franchising, I should say. And in franchising, what you have to do is you have to, when you franchise, you have to write down everything you do, exactly how you do it every single time. And you have to follow that playbook. And you have to do it so well that you can train, number one, write it down. Number two, train almost anybody to that process. And then number three, enforce it. But that's the way that you do things. You have a playbook. Everything is standardized. Now, there's still an opportunity for creativity in the individual work itself. How good of a craftsman or craftswoman are you? There's that opportunity still. But the process, the way that it's laid out, the way that it's scheduled, the way that it's communicated to clients, the expectations, those are all standardized. Every single time you do it the same way. Think about McDonald's. When you get a hamburger, it should always be the same, right? It's cooked for the same amount of time. It's put on the same patty. The same number of pickles should be on there. It's the same every single time. You may not like the quality of a hamburger from McDonald's, but you can be sure of one thing, it will be consistent. So that's what that's what the author's talking about. Create the franchise prototype, meaning you need to write down all of your standard operating procedures in writing, not just up here or, well, everybody knows. No, it needs to be written down. If you do that and you start to follow it, then you will see consistency. And I know this lesson because I've learned it in the past. When I was a project manager, I would do this all the time. When I went on to the Navy contract many, many years ago, there was a build process for deploying new versions of the web application to the server. And they would only do once every 6 months because it was so complicated. Only one guy knew how to do it. And it would take him between 1 and 2 days to deploy it, depending on how many steps he remembered or forgot since the last time he did it. And so the very first thing that I did as a project manager on that project, hearing that was a major problem, is I sat next to him with a laptop and I would watch everything he did and I would write it down. So he'd do it, I'd write it down. He'd do something else, I'd write it down. I'd say, whoa, did you press the enter key once or twice? Oh, twice, Erik. Okay, got it. And then what? What did you press then? And then he would tell me, I pressed that other thing. Okay, got it. And we wrote that procedure down. It was ridiculously detailed. But guess what? All of a sudden, boom, it was documented. The next time I sat with him, he went through the procedure and we tweaked a few things. There's a couple of things that we kind of missed or needed to be better or weren't quite the way that I wrote it out. And it was faster. And then the third time, it was faster. The fourth time, he didn't need me anymore. And all of a sudden, he got it down from 1 to 2 days to 2 to 4 hours, which was incredible at the time. They're probably down to like fully automated at this point. I've been off that project for many, many years. But I saw it myself in action. And that's not the only time that I've seen it. I've seen it many times. So writing down your standard operating procedures sounds like a pain in the ass, but isn't the roller coaster ride of business up and down and unpredictability a pain in the ass? I don't want that. You don't want that. No, what we want is smooth sailing up and to the right, up and to the right. In order to do that, you have to bite the bullet. You have to write your standard operating procedures, and you are going to have to enforce them. Hey there, it's Erik J. Olson. I wanted to let you know about my book, $1 Million Journey: How to Launch a 7-Figure Business. This is the story of what it took for me to go from freelancer with no clients, no employees, no revenue, to growing $1 million business. It took me 8 years, and I made a lot of mistakes. And all of those mistakes, and more importantly, lessons learned, are in this book. And we have chapter takeaways, 5 to 15 takeaways that you could apply right now to your business. Check it out on Amazon, $1 Million Journey by me, Erik J. Olson.